Hey guys, welcome back to Cast Album Chat with Tyler. Me and my squeaky chair are here with a special edition today. I would be remiss if I didn't do a video about one of my favorite musicals during Pride Month. So today we're going to be talking about the cast recordings of La Cage aux Folles. So this is a show that I listened to a lot before I actually finally got to see it. For a while there, it looks like there weren't going to be any productions in my area. I wasn't going to New York. This was a show that I wanted to watch for a very, very long time, and I finally got to see it on a trip to London, actually. And I think it's about 2009, and the show had its world premiere in 1983, so it took me a little while to see it, but I got there. And I have to say, it's a score that is probably my favorite Herman score. Don't kill me for that. I love Hello Dolly, I love Mame, but I really, really have a special place in my heart for La Cage aux Folles. So as I said, this is a show that I've been listening to for a very long time, so I have a lot of the recordings, so let's get into it. So of course we're going to start with the original 1983 original Broadway cast recording. And if you guys don't mind, I'm looking over to the side here. I thought that my memory was a lot better, and I've realized that as my birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks, I am no spring chicken. So, all that is to say that I need to read some of these names because it has been a long time since I've referred to them. But yeah, as I said, this is the original 1983, if I can get the glare off, I'll try to put a picture up there anyway, Broadway cast recording. This has been, I don't know if it's been remastered, but it's been re-released at some point with a slightly nicer cover. I don't really like these old school 80s RCA logos up here, not the sharpest looking thing on the face of the earth, but the recording that's inside is really spectacular, I think. Of course, if you have voices like this, George Hearn, one of the best voices ever to grace the stage. Also, Gene Barry is wonderful in his role. And the interesting thing about this show is it's really a showcase for the two leading men. You have some really, the ensemble numbers are fantastic, and they, depending on the recording, it kind of varies on how well they come across on CD or record. But really it's a showcase for these two leading men. So these men keep it afloat for sure. I know a lot of people have criticized George Hearn a little bit. It sounds like he has a traditionally masculine voice, maybe doesn't sound like a drag queen. But that really comes into the interpretation of the character. I know a lot of people that also criticize the show itself because it's not terribly clear on how these characters define themselves. Are they just a gay couple, or is it a gay man and a transgender person? It's not ever really spelled out, other than the fact that we know that Alban is a drag artist. And that comes in many forms, as we found out. Drag is not just one thing. So George Hearn has his own interpretation of it, and I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy it. On top of being one of the greatest voices, I mean, probably my favorite Sweeney. He sounds fantastic. He has a way with it, with the text, and to hear him be the first person to interpret this in his own way and have Jerry Herman's blessing and guidance really says a lot. So this is one I would definitely pick up. There's the little back cover of it right there. One of those, it's an ugly RCA CD from the 80s. My thing falls out. And I think there's really not much to this recording as far as the liner notes are concerned. You get a lot of this pink, some pictures there, not any lyrics. And I think it's probably just a scan of the LP cover, but definitely check out the original Broadway cast recording of La Cage aux Folles. So this is one of those shows that really boomed after it opened on Broadway in 1983. Immediately thereafter it went to London, and sadly we did not get a London cast recording, probably because George Hearn went over with the show and starred with Dennis Quilley, So one of the two leading men was the same. I understand why they wouldn't make a recording, but I'm still bitter about it. So that was 83, I believe, 86 for the London production. So actually there were a few productions before this that made it overseas ahead of time. So there was a 1985 Swedish production in Malmö with the famous Swedish actor Jan Malmsjö. And he did record some of the songs from the show, but it wasn't really in a theatrical setting. I don't think it's the original orchestrations. So I don't really consider that to be one of the cast recordings of the show, but if you want to check it out, it's there for your listening pleasure. The next two that do have recordings, and this one right here in my hands, ladies and gentlemen, is my baby right here from my La Cage aux Folles collection. This is the original Australian cast recording of La Cage aux Folles. And the two leading men here are my absolute favorites. I had a lot of good things to say about the original Broadway cast recording and its cast, but this is by far my go-to recording of this show. It's Keith Michel and John Ewing, and these two gentlemen, they are fantastic singers. They are fantastic actors. And on this one, John Ewing, going into the role of Alban and Zaza, makes you believe, maybe he gives us a little bit more traditional idea of what it's like to be a drag queen and an aging drag queen. It's just something, it gels more in my head, maybe. Maybe that's me being a little bit more closed-minded than I should be. But he is probably, no, he is my favorite on record. I can't say probably. He is absolutely my favorite Alban Zaza on record. The ensemble is great. The supporting cast is wonderful. And it looks to me like it was a carbon copy production. So it looks like a lot of the design was the same. And even this cast recording right here, if you open it up, it looks very, very similar to the liner notes that we saw for the original Broadway cast recording. So it's not revisionist in any way, shape, or form, but if you talk to anyone that's ever heard this album, they will undoubtedly tell you that this is the one to go for. Sadly, this has not made it to CD, so it hasn't been remastered. It may be floating around on YouTube out there somewhere, but if you can hear it, or if you can get your hands on this on LP, vinyl, go and get it now. Next in line, also premiered in 1985 in Berlin. So we have the original Berlin cast recording of La Cage aux Folles. This is actually a different physical production, but it sounds very standard from listening to it. This cast is also wonderful, and I think Helmut Baumann is the Alban Zaza on this recording. I also have it on CD here. So, little bitty thing here. Alban is Zaza on this recording, and he has a very similar take to John Ewing from the Australian cast recording. He has kind of a reedier sound to his voice, but he's very believable. And Helmut Baumann has done a lot in Germany. This was a production that was at the Theater des Westens, and I believe that he was the artistic director there for a while, so he directed a lot of things. He was doing the casting for the shows. And then later did a few shows in Bremen where he did a couple of cast recordings there, Cabaret, Victor Victoria. So this is a man that has a huge, long history in German musical theater. And as far as I know, I don't want to get into anyone's personal life, but since he is an openly gay man, I think it's wonderful to have an openly gay man sing this role. So it is very, very special, and he looks fantastic on the front there. Very 80s, very 1985. On the back you get one of our cagelles here. And I believe that these liner notes here on the CD are very similar to what we get in the vinyl. So it's just a lot of pictures, no lyrics as such, but that is the original Berlin cast recording of La Cage aux Folles, and it's highly, highly recommended. So we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. There are a few recordings that I don't have because they are very, very difficult to find. And if you happen to have them in your closet or under your bed somewhere and you would like to sell them to someone, I'm probably your guy. So the show opened in Italy. It was an Italian tour in 1991. and there is a recording. Let me just look at it over here. I know that Carlo Reali is one of the leading gentlemen, and then the other leading gentleman is named Gianfranco Mari. It's kind of a standard recording. Maybe the orchestra is a little bit smaller than what we're used to hearing, but it's solid. And something that I really, really like about it, it's a show that takes place in France, but if you watch the original movie, it's a co-production. It's an Italian-French co-production. And so one of the leading men in the movie is Italian. And so it's really, really interesting to kind of hear this in a language that's a little bit closer to French than English or even German. So if you can find that one, buy it and send it to me because I don't have it. And then the next one, I believe, also from 1991, that is correct, from Bogota, Colombia. And this one I think is really special because there are not very many Colombian cast recordings. As far as I can remember, maybe 3 or 4 official recordings. And this one is so, so hard to find. I know it's been floating around the internet a lot, so you might have heard it before. The recording itself is not so noteworthy because of its cast. I think they sound perfectly fine. You know, the orchestra, there's a lot of synth in it as opposed to actual instruments, so it's probably a smaller band as well. But what I think makes this really important is having so few Colombian cast recordings, and that this is one of the shows that actually made it down there, just showing that people can be out and proud and celebrating the show throughout the world. So if you can find that one, also buy it and send it to me. And if you can find it online, it's really, really fun to listen to as well. It has a few different orchestrations in it, so you kind of get a little bit of a different take on the show than you normally would. So next up is another one of my absolute favorite recordings of La Cage aux Folles. It's the 1993 Mexico City cast recording. This probably came out on vinyl at some point, but I've had it on CD twice. I had to sell it once when I was in college. I needed the money, but I am very happy that I got it back. I don't think it's the same copy. It very well could be. The funny thing about this thing is that it seems like maybe it started its life out white. Actually, I found out that this light makes the cover look whiter than it actually is. It's kind of faded off white. But you don't get very much on this thing. There are no liner notes. So you just get the cover, the back cover, there's a little song list there, and that's it. As you can see here. I'll try to put some clearer pictures on there. Also the disc here, which is really cool. This one I think is wonderful to have for a number of reasons. The cast, obviously, first of all, is really, really wonderful. Gustavo Rojo and Javier Diaz-Dueñas plays Alban and Zaza. And he kind of goes a little bit back to George Hearn voice. He has this big, huge, booming voice. And I actually pull this one out a lot more than the original Broadway cast recording solely because of his performance. At the end of I Am What I Am, he gives us a lovely high note and holds it out. Sounds wonderful. And the rest of the cast really sounds good too. They were making cast recordings a lot, 70s, 80s, kind of early 90s. And the sound quality for this thing is not the best that you're gonna find on a La Cage cast recording, but it has a kind of a palpable energy to it that I really, really enjoy. I do have to admit, a lot of the times when a cast recording is difficult to find, it changes your perception of it because you think, well, I had to work so hard to find it, and so I've got to like it. But this is one that I actually got pretty early on in my La Cage collecting days. So it didn't come hard. It was not hard to find, and so I'm very, very glad that I have had this in my collection for a very long time, and I listen to it a lot, mostly in the gym because it's really, the orchestra is fantastic, the singers are fantastic, the ensemble sounds really good on this. So if you can find it, pick up the original Mexico City cast recording of La Cage aux Folles, or as they call it, La Jaula de las Locas. Also from 1993, we have the original Vienna cast recording of La Cage aux Folles. Just like in Berlin, it was called La Cage aux Folles, ein Käfig voller Narren. So that's this little sucker right here. And this one's pretty cool. It came from the Wiener Volksoper, so it's one of the many opera companies that they have in Vienna. And they generally tend to be on the more legit side of things when they do produce musicals. I did see Sweeney Todd there one time, and it was definitely a very operatic affair. But this is not the case with this. Actually, this is probably one of the, how am I going to put this? There are a lot of actors who sing on this recording, so this is not really my go-to. The good thing about this recording is right here, you can actually see the liner notes. There's not very much in here, and I got the ugly, well, actually, hold on one second. We got some pictures back here. There are a few pictures, and I got the ugly one that has this back on it. It was kind of released as in a series of German and Austrian cast recordings, and so this is number 3 of that series, I think is what it says. So it's not the official back of this thing, and that's just me being completely OCD, but yeah, so this recording, going back to my original thought, this recording is not really my go-to. Usually, just because the cast is, they're fine, just maybe not my favorite cast. It's not a cast full of singers. So whenever you're talking about a cast recording without singers, it's maybe not the same type of experience you would have with some of the other recordings. What I do like about this recording is the fantastic orchestra. It's a full orchestra that would normally accompany an opera company. So you get to hear a lot of things that you wouldn't normally hear, and it's just kind of got a sweep to it that's really nice. So in any of the dance breaks, which are there, it's another good thing about this recording is it only has 13 tracks on it, but what is there, there's a lot of it. So in the opening number, you get a lot of music that you wouldn't normally hear on a Lacage cast recording. Also in the title number, you get a lot of the dance music there. So this is worth finding, and used to be a lot rarer, but now you can find it usually on eBay or Discogs somewhere. So check it out. Original Vienna cast recording from 1993. I don't know why they took so long between the 1993 Vienna cast recording and this one, but this is the 2009 Japanese tour recording. And I would love to take it out of the packaging. I've taken it out of the packaging before, I'm not that crazy. I've listened to it, but I'm always so weird. I think I'm gonna like rip this little OB strip. It's this little piece of paper strip that comes on the side in Japanese recordings. So I'll put a few extra photos up here of the liner notes and stuff with my computer. So I don't know why it took them so long to make this recording. It took them 16 years between the recordings, and I know that the production companies had nothing to do with each other. They're on opposite sides of the world. But this is a score that needs to be recorded every year. It's so wonderful. This recording has 2 legendary Japanese leading men. Takeshi Kaga is a legendary Jean Valjean from Les Mis, one of the first in Japan, and then Masachika Ichimura, who is one of the legendary Phantoms. So you get kind of 2 pieces of theater royalty from Japan in this recording, and I think it's really, really wonderful. As you know, I kind of talked about with some of the other recordings, it kind of changes our perception of the country that it is produced in, because I would normally think ignorantly that no way are they going to produce the show in Colombia, in Mexico, in Japan, and here they are proving us wrong. I just think it's really cool because we don't hear very much about the LGBTQIA+ community in Japan. You can find information on the daily life of the community in Japan. You can actually watch movies going back to the 70s. I can't remember the name of it, The Funeral of Flowers. I'll put it down below. Really great movie, just can't remember the name. Gives you a little bit of an insight for the LGBTQIA, still getting used to it, sorry, LGBTQIA community in Japan during the 70s. Getting back to this recording, it's really, really cool. It toured around 2008, 2009, and kind of just pops up from time to time, and generally has the 2 leading men touring with it. This is one I really like. It has a lot of music in it. It has 18 tracks on it. And I don't know if it's got every little song in there, but it might very well. It looks like it has Look Over There and Look Over There reprise. So if you can get this one, this is a really, really great recording if you're learning Japanese. It's a good way to practice. And I'm actually very proud that this made it all the way out to Japan. I'm a little ashamed about this part. I do not physically own the Broadway revival cast recording of this show. I stream it a lot, and I was listening to it in the gym the other day just to kind of remind myself of why I do have it or don't have it, and I really think I need to get a copy of it. The cast is really good. It's not a mistake that Douglas Hodge played it in London, then came over to Broadway, won the Tony. He sounds wonderful, and it is a bit of a caricature of a person, to be quite honest, but as we've learned throughout all these recordings, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So each Zaza Alban has their own interpretation, and his is actually really, really hilarious on the disc. He's coupled with Kelsey Grammer, and you get a lot of dance breaks, you get a lot of scenes in there. So the scene before I Am What I Am, you get on there. There's a lot of dialogue on the recording, which is really, really cool. A lot of people don't like the orchestrations because it opened at the Maynard Chocolate Factory in London, then moved to the West End, then moved to Broadway. So it was a really, really tiny production that later ended up in much larger theaters. So the band is not an orchestra. The band really never grew. The cast didn't grow. They kept the same production, just in larger theaters. So on recording, it doesn't come across quite as well as some of the other cast recordings. I was lucky to see this production, as I said, in London. I didn't see Douglas Hodge. I did get to see Roger Allam and Philip Quast in the two roles. So I got original Javert and 10th anniversary Javert, and Roger Allam gave me a kiss on the hand, and I didn't wash my hand for the whole night because I loved it. So any criticisms I might have about this recording, the proximity of the ensemble to their microphones and how it sounds on headphones, it's just a bit off to me. I don't know what it is. I don't really like the way in which it was produced necessarily. And like I said, that does not spill over into my enjoyment of the actual physical production of this show, because I think it was wonderfully reimagined. I saw it in London, and then I saw it on tour in Dallas, and talk about a small show in a big theater. So this is a really, really modern kind of take on the show. I don't remember exactly when they said it, if it was set back in the 70s or during modern times, but it's kind of a rethink. Definitely get this one for AJ Shively. He plays the son, Jean-Michel, and I really, really like his interpretation of With Anna My Arm. So check it out for him, and check it out for a little bit of a different take. Also, something that I've been wanting to talk about during all of these are the different overtures for this show. As far as I can tell, there are kind of 3 different overtures. There's one that I call Overture A, which is the long one from the original Broadway cast recording. Overture B, which I kind of called the prelude to the show, which is kind of a shortened version of that. And then it has an ending to it that it's not like the big Broadway ending. It actually sounds a little bit more like Ennio Morricone's score to the original movie, kind of finishing it up. And then on these newer recordings we're going to talk about, you kind of get the, did I do letters or numbers? A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3? This is C3. And it kind of starts off with a slow accordion playing the title number. And it really is kind of a prelude, because it doesn't really pick up steam to be a full overture before the initial speech comes in. So this is the first recording in which you get that overture. So check it out if you want to hear a different type of overture for the show. So we're heading back to Mexico, and this is the original revival Mexico City cast recording from 2016. It's a really cool cover, and it has a lot of the principal characters on it. On the back we get to see our cages. And this one was only available at the theater. I think there might have been a few other recordings that were only available at the theater, possibly the Colombian recording, the Italian recording, which is impossible to find. And I know this was only available at the theater. You might notice that it doesn't have a barcode or anything like that on there. So it is produced by the production company, and you can buy it when you go see the show. During COVID, I think right now they do have special, you can buy a ticket and watch it online, and I would like to think that this production will come back in the future. I originally saw it, I would say 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. And I think that might have been its second or third season even. So it already had a lot of success. Then they moved in Kiss of the Spider Woman afterwards, and then they brought La Cage back because it was a wonderful success the first time, and people seem to love it, so they keep doing it. This cast is head by Roberto Blandon as George, and also Mario Ivan Martinez as Alban and Zaza. This is definitely a different take. The ensemble is kind of, let me turn this disc around so you can see what it looks like here. The ensemble is pretty standard. The thing I do like about this is they've gone back to having men and women in the ensemble, so you can't tell who is who, and you can hear that on the recording. This recording that also has Overture C3. It takes after that London revival, Broadway revival, and then later on tours. So physically it doesn't look like that production, but it does use the same orchestrations, I believe, or arrangements. And also it has some of those little lines that they put in With Anne on My Arm that George also sings along with his son, kind of interdispersed in there. So that's when on this recording, you get that as well. On this recording, I think it's really interesting that Roberto Blandon, I think, is the more interesting of the two leading men. He sings really well. He also has a lot of history in Mexican musical theater. And then also Mario Ivan Martinez has a very interesting take on this role. And I remember thinking this when I watched him in the theater, that he took a very subdued take, kind of a point of view to this character. Is not generally what we think of. And so maybe on disc it doesn't come across as strongly as it did in the theater, but I thought he was wonderful because he was a human being. There was no caricature to his character. He was just a human being. And so it brings in different layers to his performance. On disc, he does kind of have a lighter voice, and he goes into falsetto sometimes, actually. So you'll notice whenever he's singing his big songs, he kind of holds back a little bit. But you know, this recording is really, really wonderful, and it brings back some really, really great memories as well. So if you can get down to Mexico City, if they produce this again, or if you can find it, if they're still selling it at the theater, or if you can find it in a used record shop, probably in Mexico, definitely grab it, because not only is it great, but it's very rare. So grab yourself a copy. And finally, we have the last recording to date, and it is the 2018 Barcelona cast recording. This was not the first time that La Cage aux Folles or Jaula de las Locas was done in Spain, but it's the first time that it was actually recorded in Spain. So it's really, really great to have this one as well. As you can tell maybe by the cover, this one also takes after the latest revival from London and Broadway. And the leading men on this are Ivan Lavanda as George, and then Angel Yasser as Alban and Zaza. And I am mixed about this one. Once again, you get Overture 3C, C3, whatever I called it. So you get those same orchestrations. This is a live recording. And so, you know, you get everything that comes with a live recording. Sound quality is fine, but you get that live kind of spark to the performances. So that I really, really like. And Angel Yasser is quite famous in Spain. He does a lot of television. So just to see him live and really feed off of that audience there in Spain was a really, really great experience for me. I will say the production itself, and it's not all on the CD. There were some things about it. There was kind of like a 30-minute break in the middle of the title number just to have kind of a comedy act that had nothing to do with La Cage aux Folles. And also, look over there. There's only the reprise of it. There is no original version of the song. It just comes in as a reprise. So it's about 45 seconds long, and it's a new melody that we haven't heard throughout the evening. So it's a little confusing. I think that producers, directors maybe kind of slaughtered it a little bit more than I would have liked. You can hear some of the dialogue on this recording of Alban talking about not playing Salome, which sounds like a very Norma Desmond sort of thing to me, but obviously, I mean, it's been a couple of years since I did see it, but I do remember that the script was not necessarily the same script that we're used to with La Cage aux Folles. So that shades my opinion of this recording. That being said, if you can find it, definitely get it. You can never go wrong with this score, so I'll put a few more pictures on here. This is also another one that doesn't have a barcode because it was only available at the theater, so pick yourself up a copy if you can find it. So I have to apologize a little bit because I feel like this was kind of a rushed video, but I definitely wanted to do a Lacage video during Pride. The history of the show, from being a play to a movie and then a musical, and especially when the musical hit, you know, during the AIDS epidemic, it affected the world, but really affected our community, and affected the casts of this show all around the world because it was really in its heyday in the 80s. So when I listen to these recordings, I think of all of those that we might have lost and how lucky we are to have them on record, still with us. And that's another reason why I kind of started this little series. COVID really got me thinking about how maybe cast recordings are not the best substitute for going to theater live, but you really get to hear a little bit of theater represented just over an hour, a couple of hours, and it's always with you. You'll always have it. So, you know, the moment is gone. That's the lovely thing about live theater, is that it happens and it's out there in the universe. It will never happen again. But we have a lot of magic recorded from these cast recordings. It's just so many wonderful moments from history, and this one is especially near and dear to my heart just because I know that many of the cast members that were lighting up the stage before are no longer with us. So I dedicate this video to them and their memory. I dedicate this to the memory of Jerry Herman, and I hope that you guys really enjoy whichever cast recording you decide to go with. But I'm telling you, if you can find it, this is the one to go for right here, the Australian cast recording. So thanks again for sticking around, listening to me ramble on about all these shows. I will see you next time with my squeaky chair. Don't forget to subscribe down below, so just click on the button down there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.